Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. As the title suggests, I have recently got some books from Book Outlet and I'm very excited to show them to you. So out of my 10 books, I've got 6 fiction books and 4 nonfiction books. So I feel like we've got a good mix of different areas of interest here and I'm really excited to talk about them. So let's get started with the fiction books. The first book that I picked up from Book Outlet was this beautiful hardcover copy of Wicked Like a Wildfire by Lana Popovic. Basically, the idea behind this book is that we've got twin sisters, I believe, who have this magical ability called Gleam. It basically is this ability to find beauty or manipulate the beauty in things. I don't understand it entirely, but it has something to do with beauty and magic, and it sounds intriguing. I feel like this is going to be very much like a curse prophecy type book, and honestly, I'm here for it. I feel like I need something like that in my life right now, so I'm very excited to get to Wicked Like a Wildfire by Lana Popovic. Next up, we've got another book that has gotten a lot of Booktube time. I feel like a lot of people have been talking about this. So that book is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. It sounds like this is a dystopian type novel. Humankind has basically figured out how to keep people from dying from natural causes like aging and ailments and things like that, which is kind of interesting to me. I feel like that would be a really interesting society to get a look into. And because of that, the human population is going to get out of control unless we manage it ourselves. And so society has basically come up with this job for young people to be trained for. They're going to be trained to be scythes, where it's their responsibility to take the life of others at the time that is, I guess, deemed appropriate. I don't know. So that kind of seems like a really, really good opportunity to learn about kind of like moral and ethical standpoints on death and at what point, at least in this society, it'll be appropriate to take the life of someone. I'm interested to see what that's all about. Maybe initially it wasn't something that I was super interested in, but when I started to think about it from sort of the ethical, moral standpoint, I'm interested to see how it's presented in this book. So moving on, the next book that I picked up was a book that I picked up purely for the author. This is a book by Tamora Pierce. If you've been on my channel, you've undoubtedly heard me talk about the Circle of Magic series by Tamora Pierce. I basically just wanted to pick up another one of her books. I wanted to pick up something that's a little bit more current than that series was. I believe this came out in 2018, maybe. Honestly, I know very little about it. I think it's about a mage doing mage things. Maybe it's like a coming of age story. I really don't know. I literally just picked it up because it's Tamora Pierce and it's current. So we'll see if I enjoy this. And this is Tempest and Slaughter by Tamora Pierce. I don't think I mentioned that. Next up, we've got a book that I got a really good price on. It's a hardcover and I bought it for like $2. I first heard about this book, I believe, from Books and Lala's channel, and I think she enjoyed it, and I think that's why I picked it up. It's supposed to be kind of like a survival type story, and this is Avalanche by Melinda Braun. So apparently some people, maybe teenagers, not sure, they go into the mountains to go skiing, and then there's an avalanche and people die and things happen, and they basically have to try and figure out how they can get themselves to safety after this horrific accident has occurred. So survival book, sounds kind of interesting. There's not much more to it than that I'm interested in, but maybe there's more to it. I'm going to read it. I'm going to find out. Hopefully I enjoy it. So the next book that I picked up was No Safety in Numbers by Dana Lorenz. This is a book about some teens that get stuck at a mall. They are basically quarantined in the mall because it's found that a biological bomb was planted at the mall, which is such a scary modern day problem that could potentially happen somewhere. The idea of it really terrifies me, but it's also very intriguing to me because I am someone who's interested in science. So I'm interested to see how science is portrayed in this book. I think this one will probably leave me on the edge of my seat a little bit. I think it's going to be an interesting delve into how science is portrayed in fiction. So I'm going to see what I think about that. I'll let you guys know when I finish it. So the next book that I chose was a little bit of a wild card for me. Usually when I do some kind of online book shopping, I try to throw a book in there that I've heard good things about and I'm a little bit interested in, but not like super duper interested in. Like I kind of want to just like give a chance to a random book that I'm at least a little bit interested in. I hope that makes sense. And so the book that I'm referring to is An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. I've heard quite a lot about this. I've heard a lot of people like it. I've heard some people don't like it so much. The thing that kind of intrigued me about this is that it sounds like it is a book about fae, or fairy folk and their interactions with humans. And it specifically follows a main character who is a painter, and I love painting myself. So to be honest, that was one of the main reasons why I picked this book up, because I was like, oh cool, the main character likes to paint. I like to paint. I'm gonna love this book. Not the best logic, but regardless, this was kind of my wild card pick. It's not super long either, which gives me a lot of hope for reading it. So yeah, that was my wild card pick, An Enchantment of Ravens. Hopefully I enjoy it. Alright, so those were the 6 fiction books that I bought from Book Outlet. We're now moving on to the non-fiction books, and there are 4 of them in total. The first one that I want to talk about is a book that I'm really interested to get to pretty soon, and that book is Born Anxious: The Lifelong Impact of Early Life Adversity and How to Break the Cycle by Daniel P. Keating. The reason why I picked this book up, as many people in my generation, your generation, all the generations do, I deal with anxiety from time to time. For me personally, I don't do well with self-help books. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of most self-help books, but something that does help me when I'm struggling with something is to understand a little bit more about the thing that I'm struggling with. And so that's why I picked up this book. It seems like this is going to be less of a preachy self-help book and more so an education. For me to feel like I'm making progress with something like anxiety, I just feel like I need to know more about it. I feel like I need to understand maybe the possible reasons why I'm experiencing it so that I can kind of get to the root of the problem. It's written by a professor of psychology from, I believe, the University of Michigan. I feel like this individual knows what they're talking about, but I definitely think in the future I will pick up some other books by other individuals who are highly trained in the area so that I can kind of compare and contrast and come to hopefully some good conclusions about anxiety and why we all feel what we feel when we do. Moving on, the next 2 books that I picked up are from 2 authors that are quite well known and quite connected with each other. I am talking about James D. Watson and Francis Crick. You might have heard of those names as the 2 individuals that were heavily involved in understanding the structure of DNA as being a double helix structure. It's super cool and super interesting, so that's why I started to look for some books by significant people in scientific history, and I came up with these. So this first one I am very excited about. This is The Double Helix, a personal account of the discovery of the structure of DNA by James D. Watson. This is super cool to me because I am so interested in hearing a first-hand account of how a major scientific discovery was made. Very excited to pick up The Double Helix. In keeping with the Watson and Crick vibe, we've got The Astonishing Hypothesis: The Scientific Search for the Soul by Francis Crick. This is basically a book that discusses spirituality and scientific fact in regards to the human soul, which sounds super cool to me. So I'm really interested in this. I'm not going to say too much more on it because honestly, I feel like I need to read it before I talk a little bit more about this specific subject. So I'm really interested in reading it. The last book that I've got here is a book by an author that is pretty controversial, I feel like. He's very outspoken. So this is Science in the Soul: Selected Writings of a Passionate Rationalist by Richard Dawkins. As far as I know, this is kind of like a collection of essays or short writings just about science in general, just about like the state of science, good science versus bad science and that sort of thing. So I'm really interested in learning about that because I want to continue on and go into grad school, maybe do a PhD one day, maybe be a professor of biology one day. And so I feel like having this perspective in the back of my head is going to serve me well moving forward. I think it'll be interesting. We'll see if I recommend it after I read it. Alright guys, that is everything I've got for you today. That is my book outlet haul. I am extremely excited to get into reading these books. I also have some library books that I've picked up that I have to read soon, so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to get on to these books. Let me know what you guys thought about the books that I selected from Book Outlet. Let me know if you guys have ever used Book Outlet. That's it for today, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have anything to say, leave a comment down below. Also, leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and don't hesitate to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!